experience of supply first versus consumer first. Your model is also slightly different. It is, as of now, predominantly focused on diabetes and allied conditions. So could you speak a little bit about the challenges, supply versus demand?
I don't know if you guys can hear me, but I think while I was hearing both of them comment, things change with time, but what was surprising was that things have moved so fast in the last couple of years, because we just started out barely a year back, and some of the experiences these gentlemen here shared with you, we've had quite different experiences with most of the different stakeholders, whether these be the investors, whether these be the suppliers, or even the demand side. Coming back to your question, because I think for us, what helped us was so we are the young ones, right? So all these gentlemen here, they paved the way for us. So most of the times when we go, especially to the supply side, these guys are relatively more educated than one would have expected earlier. Sandeep and I have discussions occasionally, and maybe Sandeep will be able to throw some more light from also the supplier side of how established players like even Dr. Lal's are moving towards the digital initiatives that are taking place within them. So I think the supply side, with the push that these guys have given, has meant that when we have gone to them, they already know about digital, they know about technology, they know how this has actually helped them improve their business, whether when there was dead period or downtime, etc. So that hasn't been too hard. However, the integration issue still remains, because the supply side is still quite fragmented or still quite scattered, even though we've had marketplace models or Practos being there for a while. But most of them, or many of them, still don't have systems wherein you can easily integrate their offline part with the online part, and you have to reinvent the wheels most of the time. So we would love it if, for instance, they might have a system already embedded or Practo, etc. We can just go and hook up a part of our services to them, but that doesn't exist as of now. So that's talking about the supply side. On the demand side, I think it's been a positive revelation. So our entire model is very patient-centric. So I think Tarun explained before about the information asymmetry that existed. I think the space we are talking about, chronic diseases and especially diabetes, forget about information asymmetry. There is hardly any information even with the physicians, because at the end of the day, diabetes predominantly in our country is treated by physicians, whereas they are not the specialists treating or needing to treat those diseases or chronic ailments. So I think it's been a very positive feedback coming in from the demand side, because they've appreciated the services which we are bringing out to them, whether these be in partnership with the suppliers, or on some occasion we've actually gone out there and built up the services ourselves. We are still relatively young, so only time will tell whether the model that we are shaping is the right path or not. But in general, at least my experience over the last year or so has been that the market is a lot more mature than you read in the papers a year back or 2 years back. And I think the things are moving in the right direction, whether there's still room to improve and room to do a lot more. So do we have a winning format yet? I'm not quite sure. But are we moving in the right direction? Yes, we are. Of course, we're hampered with some of the discussion we were having offline with the regulations, etc. But those things are natural, part and parcel of improvement. So US might be a few years ahead of us. We're catching up in most spaces. E-commerce was there. Healthcare will catch up. I think healthcare, digital health is a common buzzword now. But it's not so easy getting in. So what I wanted to mention was, while these things have improved, and these guys I'm sure had a much tougher time than perhaps what we are having with the demand or the supply side, the market dynamics have shifted, right? So that brings us to the third stakeholder, which are the investors. So while these guys had to labor for 4 years, you mentioned briefly, I think times are moving in that direction again, because while the life cycle of initially understanding and developing a revenue model, making it profitable, and then scaling up, that life cycle was a little prolonged in the last couple of years. We already see that pressure, because they want us to tighten the screws quickly. When the revenue model is identified, then the profitability needs to come quicker. When the profitability is coming, the model needs to become scalable. So it's just a movement of making models more productive, models more efficient, and this is a natural course of sort of time where we are seeing improvements in the models, improvements in healthcare delivery, because at the end of the day, primary healthcare or most of the solutions that are being tackled or talked about here, they're still not accessible to a large chunk of our population, and they're also not affordable. So I think that's basically what we guys are after, to make them more accessible, make it more affordable, and use technology to enable the effort, because we can't make it too overwhelming for the user or for the supplier or for the demand side. So things have to still be simple, but yet they need to solve the real problems, the real issues that patients face.
Thanks.